Hey, hello and welcome back to my channel again. Today I'll be reviewing this Durafly EFX Racer. I've had about 30-35 flights on it, so I think I have a good understanding of what the plane can and cannot do by now. I'll be going over the fit and finish, the build, how it launches and lands, and what the flight characteristics are. Okay, let's dive into it. Now, first there's very little assembly on this plane. When you get it, you have to click in, there's no screws, click in the horizontal stabilizer and the elevator. You have to screw on the main wings, and you have to attach the links for the ailerons and the elevator and the rudder. And that's all. So it goes together in about 15 minutes, I think. Alright, and I've heard and read that some had problems clicking on this horizontal stabilizer. The click mechanism, there's a little tab here that clicks into one another, and some of the people that got this plane said that it didn't fit right, so they had to trim off a little on the inside. I myself didn't have that problem, but well, and it's an easy to fix problem, so I don't think that's a bad thing. Okay, after you've done that, you have to of course install your receiver. The ESC is already installed when you get the plane, and as are the servos for the tail and the ailerons. Now, I hope you can see this, but I've got my receiver jammed into the slot between the tail servos here, and there's not enough room if you have a bulky receiver. I have a small Futaba 6-channel receiver in there, and well, that fits just fine. I haven't even glued or velcroed it down. It just jams into the slot and fine. Okay, that was really the only challenge I had while assembling it. Alright, I think the fit of everything was just fine in my case. Once again, some people complained about the tail not fitting right away, but I had no problems, and the wing fits nicely. It goes on with these two screws here, fits nice here, fits perfect here. So, well, I was pretty happy with that. I'm quite a fan of multiplex planes. They always fit very well, but I think this is up to par with that. Okay, launching. Now, I think the launch is pretty straightforward on this plane. I always launch it underhand like this, and of course it has a bit of torque roll. Depends on how much throttle you put in, but just if you're a reasonably experienced pilot, you'll have no problem with it. So it banks a little to the left like this when launching, but there's no real problem with that. Landing, on the other hand, this plane glides very well. A friend of mine is making a slope glider of it, without the motor of course. And from my experience when landing it, I think it will be a great globe slider, because well, it's quite hard to bring it in really, because it floats and floats forever. But if you have a nice landing strip with enough room, that's okay, of course, and after a few flights you're familiar with that. Okay, next thing. Some people have complained when you fly in higher winds from, let's say, 3 or 4 before, the tail will waggle a little. And I've had the same experience. It does waggle a little in the higher winds, and it looks a little funny. It's far from out of control. You can just fly on, but it looks a little funky, and I'm not sure if you can resolve that, but well, that's just one aspect of this plane. If you have a side wind, it'll waggle a little in winds. Okay, now the big thing about this plane, of course, was the speed. It is advertised as being a 100 miles an hour plane, and well, let's first tell you what my experience on this field is. I also have a multiplex dogfighter, and this isn't the standard setup I have in it. This is very fast. This is far over 100 miles an hour, especially on 4S. This plane, the EFX fighter, or EFX Racer, sorry, in a horizontal flight on full throttle, maybe with a tailwind you'll be able to get to 100 miles an hour, but I don't think so. If you start your run with a dive, which is done in most speed runs, I think, you will get to 100 miles an hour, but you'll have to put in some effort. Nevertheless, I really like this plane, despite despite the fact that I have faster planes. I really like this plane because it's reasonably fast, it glides great, and it handles, well, I think it handles great, really. Now, one thing, mentioning the handling, you will have to dial in differential ailerons. If you want to have a straight roll, you'll have to dial in your differential so that the aileron facing downwards will be about 30% less down than the other one is up. Otherwise you'll have a corkscrew when you roll it. It's not a bad thing, but it looks stupid, I think. So if you really want your EFX Racer to roll nicely, you'll have to dial in some differential ailerons. Okay, last thing I want to mention is the modifications I've made to this plane. Most ready to run planes that I buy, I do modifications to, and well, the first modification I did was balance the propeller. You really have to do that. The propellers that are provided with the plane are not balanced. You have to balance them. The second modification, it's not a real modification, but I have added the nose cone bit that is provided. Despite that the fact that I run it on a 4S, I use a Nanotech 1800 35-70C 4S pack, and it is recommended by HobbyKing that you leave the nose cone off for better cooling. But I live in a reasonably cold climate, so with the nose cone on, with a lot of full speed flying, nothing overheats. But if, for instance, you live in California, you might want to leave the nose cone off. Okay, next thing I modified was, I've put carbon fiber tape on the leading edge of the wing, mainly because my flying field is less from perfect. It has a lot of weed on it, so you might want to do that to protect the foam at the edge of the wing. And last thing I changed was I put tape on the cover on the holes for the servos. It sounds a little different in the air if you don't do that. I'm not sure if it'll be really faster, but I didn't like for the airflow the hole on the bottom, so I've done that. Now on a lot of planes that I get, I put striping on the bottom for better visibility, and no, that wasn't really necessary for this plane. Its visibility in the air, even at further distances, is quite good. So, okay, can I recommend this plane, and to what kind of pilot would I recommend it? Yes, I would recommend this plane, especially if you're a third plane or fourth plane buyer, you haven't had a faster plane. Then this is a really good choice, I think. It's very stable, it has a reasonable speed to it, and it looks good. Always nice, of course. If you're a seasoned pilot and you've had lots of very fast planes, this plane might be a little bit of a disappointment because of the lack of speed. Nevertheless, it still flies nice, I think. So, alright, well, tell me what you think of the plane in the comment sections below. Thanks for watching, of course, and if you aren't subscribed yet, please do. Thanks in advance. Bye bye.